Hey everybody, thanks for joining me on Awesome Vegans. I have 6 super awesome, burly vegan men with me today. It's the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club. Before we get started on how, what, why, where, and when, and what does that even mean, we're gonna first get an introduction from everyone. So we have right here on my right, the founder, Phil Nichols, and he is the founder of the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club, and he has brought 5 of his posse with him. So let's just start on the end and tell me your name and when you joined the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club.
My name is Brock. I joined, I want to say 2016 actually, sorry.
Awesome.
My name is Marcin. I joined right after Barack a couple months later.
Phil, give us the start date of Vegan's Choice.
2014.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so you've been rolling now for about 4 years. Captain?
Chris MILOSH from Toronto. I joined the club right around the time it formed, maybe a couple months after, once you introduced the idea to me, and it's been a great roller coaster ride since then.
Awesome.
I'm Mark from Chicago, and I joined about 2 or 3 years ago.
Cool.
And Chris Green from Bristow, Oklahoma. I joined April 2016.
I love it. So you guys are diehards. You guys have been here since not exactly the beginning, but early on, which is so wonderful. So let's talk to Phil first. I do have to say, I've never done a podcast where I've had so many voices all at the same time, in addition to my own. So for the YouTube people out there, you might hear me say everybody's name again a couple times, just so that the audio people on iTunes can know who's saying what when they're saying it. But first, let's talk to Phil. Phil, why did you start Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club?
Yeah, because I always had motorcycles in the background, and when I got the concept of, I think like vegetarianism is a stepping stone, and then veganism after, and I wanted to prove that it doesn't change who you are. If you were a motorcycle guy before that and you change to veganism, it doesn't. You could be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. It doesn't change that. So you're still the core of what you are.
So in this, did you have a mission at the outset? Did you say, I'm really trying to tell others what being a vegan and being a motorcycle dude is all about? Or did you not care? You just wanted to do it for yourself?
No, well, that's partially it too, because I think that the stereotype is that, it's all about bacon and eating meat and all that, and it's not true. I don't think there's any correlation between strength and diet, to a point where, you can be a vegan but have a bad diet, or be a vegan and have a good diet. You can be a meat eater and have a good diet, and have a bad diet. So you obviously have to watch it, but.
Okay, so let me just clarify that. You can be a strong vegan or a weak vegan. Do you mean physically strong, or do you mean of your ideals?
Both, yeah.
And so for you, because you were sort of a partner, Chris, early on in the club, the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club, what attracted you to join, and what did you hope to sort of express in joining?
Well, one of the first things Phil spoke to me about was, Chris. At the time, I was a motorcycle instructor teaching the course to get your license. So I had a lot of ins and people I knew of in the industry in motorcycling. So that was a big thing for Phil, was that he didn't really know too many people other than me and a few that could really open up the eyes to the motorcycling world. So that was motorcycle-wise, that's how I got involved. Veganism, Phil's very much more for ethical reasons and personal reasons. Me, it was more of a health thing. And getting to the point with my doctor a few years ago where he sat me down and said, here's your cholesterol, your family's traditionally high cholesterol, and then he presented to me the list of things I shouldn't be eating, and I noticed a lot of them were like red meat, red fish, and we started going through it all, and I asked him, at the end of it, I said to my doctor, so basically don't eat meat, and he was like, yeah, exactly.
So, and I think this is fascinating. Your doctor said don't eat fish.
Red, like salmons and the darker fish, and obviously red meats, but that, he said, chicken's fine, this and that. But then when I really started looking at and analyzing what I was eating that was giving me stomach problems and making me not feel good, and my cardio, and I kind of looked at the whole picture, and I was like, yeah, when I'm pretty much eating vegetarian stuff, I don't feel that way. So maybe there's an idea there that I shouldn't be eating meat. And that's kind of how it started for me.
And how did you work in dairy? Or did you? I mean,
for a long time I just continued, and it was only recently over the past year or so that I kind of went full on, where it's like cutting almost everything out. So I'm still working on it, but yeah, I mean, certain things like I tried to cut all the red meats out right away, and then it was a progression. It wasn't just overnight. Okay, I'm vegan.
right.
So and now it's at the point where I feel a lot better just about myself and physically.
So I love that. The concept of I feel great because I physically feel better, and then I'm aligning with my values in my life, and that always feels good.
It took a long time to realize it was primarily what I was eating that kind of made me not feel good and healthy. And I guess when I was younger, my metabolism, I could just eat whatever I wanted and no problem.
Totally.
Now I'm 41, and it's like, okay, I guess I have to start watching things.
Yeah.
That's
No,
all
it's
I-
cruel. You turn 40 and you're like, holy
Yeah.
but Jesus, what's happened to me? Yeah. So I understand that you sort of started thinking, hey, there's a correlation here between what I eat. It sounds so simple, but it took me a long time to get this. There's a correlation between what I eat and how I feel. Because I didn't have that correlation when I was younger. I truly put everything in my mouth and I just bounced back right away. And then you realize like, ooh, wait a minute. So let me just kind of go around though. I'll start with Barack over here. Barack, why did you join Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club?
I always loved motorcycles. And Facebook is one of those things you just get in there and search random things 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. And I was like, I wonder if there's a vegan motorcycle club. And there was. It was just incredible to find because it was like an oxymoron to me in my head. Like, no, this can't exist. I had so much love that I found it. So I actually rode out to Canada the first chance I got to meet him in person. Of course, I was a vegan a couple years before that, but it was just 2 things I love. Spreading the message about keeping animals safe from being murdered and riding motorcycles. It just made so much sense.
Yeah, it's so awesome when you can align your love and your passion with what actually then does good and makes you feel good. It's like such a win-win-win-win. Well, let me ask you, when did you become vegan?
I want to say about 5 years.
Okay, and what made you want to go vegan?
Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a video I watched, and it was really not one of those like, hey, look what's happening to animals. It was more like somebody making fun of slashing a cow, and they were just joking around and
Of slashing a cow?
yeah, they were just making fun of an animal dangling, and they were just having fun with it. And I was so disgusted that there are people out there who does that. Then I realized I actually contribute to this kind of thing. It was just a light switch for me at that point.
So, if you don't mind, elaborate that on a little bit for me. How did you make that connection to you contributing?
Well, it was actually a place where they would prepare beef, where they would produce burgers that I was eating. So I was like thinking to myself, these guys are there. They have this job because I'm buying those burgers. There's no escaping that once you see it the way it works out.
So I love this concept. I won't go all political on you here, but if the recent election has shown me anything, it's that whether you are left or whether you are right, to the right or to the left, they so don't care about you. And if you really want to have an impact, yes, your vote at the ballot counts, but your vote with your wallet is what really counts. And when you make that connection, I think that's a really strong one that you said for yourself, Barack. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you were saying, I buy this, so ultimately I'm empowering it. And
100%.
yikes. So let me get to, we have we're so big here, I have to sort of go behind. Let me get to Marcin. So tell me, why did you join the club? I'm going to refer to it as the club now. And why'd you go vegan?
Well, I think Barack kind of introduced me after his trip and his experience in Canada, and with this, he's been kind of like the perpetrator of the whole shebang for me. And I think joining was really the community factor. It was more
Nice.
finding people that's like, they think they're kind of need that push, kind of need that help of yeah, do I want to take? I don't think I was fully vegan yet, and that was kind of the pushing stone of, yeah, maybe go a little further.
So let me ask you. So, Barack's saying he did it sort of for animals and was making that connection. And Captain Chris, can I call you Captain Chris?
I'm a captain in the infantry reserves in Canada. Yes, kind of like the equivalent of the National Guard.
Boom! Okay, so we'll get to just how masculine is that in just a second. But Captain Chris is, he went for health reasons. So I love that you're saying you went for community. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing the other stuff is important to you too, but what kind of community did you get from the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club?
Well, we get to talk about things. We get to write together mostly. Me and Barack, we write a lot, and now you have a destination.
Yeah.
So a few months after Barack came back from Canada, I decided I have some family in Toronto. I'm like, I'm gonna ride out to Toronto and find the owner, and so we have that connection as well.
So I think what you're referring to is a patch-in party. Is that right?
Kind of something like that.
Okay, so let's just find out what we're talking about here when we talk about getting the patch. I'm going to go over here and ask Mark and then Chris. So you guys, when did you go vegan? Why did you go vegan? And did you have a patch-in party? We'll find out what that's all about. Hit it, Mark.
Okay. Well, I've been riding bikes for about 25 years. And I had a patch of my own I found on the internet that I thought was kind of cool. And I wore that all over the place. And found through Facebook, of course, I was looking for a motorcycle club. I didn't think there would be one. And there was. Yeah. And I found out that there's this patch. This is the first time I've met Phil or any of these guys for that matter. So it's a great patch.
So awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, and when did you go vegan again?
It was about 6.5 years ago. I wasn't even vegetarian. I didn't even know what a vegan was. Someone told me to watch Earthlings, which is a horrendous documentary on what goes on in the industry, and I barely got through the first 30 minutes of it before I was just speechless. And I went upstairs. I'd been exercising on the elliptical, and I told my wife that I was a vegan. I don't know how to pronounce it. And she's like, "What?" And so that was it. I mean, I went like that. So we just struggled for a couple of weeks finding how we're going to replace this and that and the other thing. But there was just no way I was going to be a part of it. I wasn't going to, my name wasn't going to be on it any longer.
I think this is a great point that you're talking about, because we always think I don't know, I speak for myself. Once I figured out, like, okay, I'm more than 40 now, so I'm going to start eating a little differently. It was easy to make the connection that, okay, my food affects how I feel. But I didn't expect to get such a boost about aligning my values with my purchases and where I spend my money, and knowing that I'm really making the right choice for me. I didn't realize that I would get such a good mood boost or really feel so much better, not physically, but mentally, when I was aligning. So I think that's really important, that you feel like, okay, I want change, and I'm making the change myself. And change is hard. I get that. And we're going to talk about that too, like what everybody eats and how they made the change. But change is hard, but wow, when you make that change, it feels super good. So Chris, when did you go vegan, and why'd you join?
So I kind of like these guys, my interest in motorcycles has been going on since my punk rock days, which is how I became vegan, actually.
Punk rock is how you became vegan?
Yeah. Well, but as far as the club goes, I think, in the world of social media now, I'm a member of a lot of motorcycle groups, a lot of different animal rights groups, things like that. I think Phil and I crossed paths on the internet, and I think he shot me a message, you ride a bike and you're vegan? Dude, here we are. So that's when I got connected with the Vegan's Choice MC. That's been great ever since. As far as my veganism goes, I was 22. I was going to a punk rock show, and we all went there. It was in the basement of a house, and they had flyers. They were doing a fundraiser for the Tulsa SPCA, but they had some flyers from different animal rights groups and things like that. So I went to the table, gave them a little donation, and started reading the flyers. And I sat outside the whole time reading all the flyers instead of going to the show. Made the connection that night for vegetarianism. A couple weeks later, we had Bruce Friedrich from PETA come into town to do a speech on veganism. And he swayed me, and here I am, junk food vegan.
So it's possible, right, to not give up anything that you love and be vegan. We heard it here first from the junk food vegan.
Yeah.
Let me ask you then, so you've been vegan since the age of 22?
22, yeah. Yeah.
Damn. Okay, well that's impressive. I'll also say that you are the founder of an animal sanctuary. Is that right?
Well, I'm the president now. The
Okay.
founder with Paula Silver. We have Sacred Ground Animal Sanctuary in Bristow, Oklahoma. She passed away, so I took over from her. Knew her. She was, vegan. Met her actually through punk rock stuff too, and she was kind of like a mom figure to me. So I just kind of took her place and took over, and we're still there running and saving lives.
I love it. What kind of animals do you help?
We've got horses, pigs, donkeys, turkeys, chickens, dogs, cats, goats,
So awesome.
a little bit of everything.
So awesome. I don't know if you know the answer to this, if not, no big deal. Is Oklahoma a pro-animal state? I know that sounds weird. Any state, I guess, that has lots of animal slaughterhouses maybe wouldn't be considered pro, but like I think of Illinois is often out in front of things like dog fighting or elephants in circuses. I think Illinois was the first state to be like, no. So I'm wondering what Oklahoma's like towards animals.
We're a little slow.
No worries.
We had we still had the cockfighting going on, after
right.
everybody else. So no, we're slow on that front. But a lot more vegan entrees at different restaurants now. So it's slowly. The tide's changing.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're lagging, but we're coming.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Oklahoma. Thanks for making that happen. Okay. Part of the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club, you guys are riding around town. Today you're 6, but sometimes you even have more. What do people say? What's their reaction? And then do they just like point and move on, or do they really want to discuss with you about what's going on? I'll let you guys take it over here.
I guess it depends where you are. If you're in Texas somewhere, you may get a different question than if you're, out riding in Chicago. Chicago has been lovely. I would stop at intersections and I would get claps. I would get people wanting to take a picture. In fact, what I do is I have a carrier for my dog. I have a tiny tampon Yorkie, so I would have my dog wearing my vegan vest. It's just a lovely thing. People love it in the city. Some places, I actually get questions like the other day, I was at a dealer getting my bike serviced. Out of curiosity, people are interested who are bike riders that are not part of a club. How does it work? What does your bylaws say? Like, what if you're caught eating a burger? What happens? And things like that. So I just love it. In any part of the country you go, you'll spike a different kind of question, and it's all good. It's all good news.
That's so awesome. So let me throw this to Phil then, founder of the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club. So what are the rules for being in VCMC?
It's a good question. And basically we have like a hierarchy. So we invite anybody to become a supporter. At the support level, we don't say that you have to have a motorcycle or anything. But the point is, as you move up the chain, we expect more and more. So, for instance, all our members have to have a motorcycle. It has to be more than 500 cc's. And the way we do it is you have to be a vegan to the best of your ability, because we understand that everybody's at different levels, and there's no such thing as a perfect person or a perfect vegan. And we use the argument that comes up a lot is, hey, you're a vegan, but you still wear leather. So we have a policy on that, and if you have something that was leather from before, we leave it up to the member to say, do you want to throw it away, give it away? Do you want to keep it? Doesn't make any difference, because we can't change the past. All we can do is try to emanate the future and say that don't go and do it again. But we're here to help each other. We're here to try to raise the bar for everybody. And we don't want to make it so stringent that nobody can join, because there will be nobody there. Nobody is perfect.
Right.
You know?
I love this because it really is about whatever progress you can make. So I think all of us here love animals and we're trying to sort of keep in shape, give or take. And that's, is everyone's individual struggle. But even beyond that, we all know that like nobody changes usually in a day, and even then you have to struggle. And so it's all about everyone's personal journey, I think, in terms of veganism. I don't know what you think for the club, but it's all about everyone's personal journey in terms of, how you want to spend your dollars and how you want to incorporate food into your life. But I love that you're saying you're kind of an open door policy.
Would Alcoholics Anonymous turn people away because they were drinking or they do drink? No, that's the place an alcoholic should be. They should be with the people like that. So hopefully anybody has a problem or something or questions, they can they can ask and they can reach out and we can help each other.
So do people ask? So let me even backtrack. I'm guessing that membership is 95% men. Is that right?
Well, I mean, like we have a support. The support kind of varies among, so far patch members are mostly men,
Okay, and as we were talking about before, so a patch member is somebody who's like the highest level of inclusion in the club, right? They're the most dedicated. And they really try to be vegan to the best of their ability, and they've got their motorcycle and they're ready to ride and like spread the word. Okay, so those you said are about 95% men.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't naturally think of men going to other men for help on what they eat, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if it's, hey, what should I do about this burger? I really want to eat it. That type of thing. I think it's more just like, more or less like a thing like, hey, this is what we're eating tonight. How's that? Or what do you think about, I've got this jacket. What do you think I should do with it? Type thing. It's that sort of thing. It's not. I know where you're going with that.
Yeah. So it's not like, how do I make this vegan meal? It's more like, hey, tonight we're going this route. Everyone's down with that.
Here's some options.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a great question. And Chris, maybe I'll throw it to you. Captain Chris, I'll throw it to you. So do you guys throw out food options, recipe options, this kind of stuff? Or no, you really keep it to eat whatever you want. It's up to you to be vegan, but we're riding, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I think for myself, like when we get together for rides, we come up with a plan first. We usually have a day or so in advance where we plan the route, where the ride is going to be, and then from there, with everything on social media now, we kind of get a good idea of what's available in the area. For example, we were riding in through Kalamazoo, and I'm on the GPS. I pull over and I just type in, Kalamazoo vegan restaurant, and then surprisingly, a whole bunch came up.
A whole bunch?
A couple. I picked one. I just hit go. And unfortunately, we get to the address and it was just somebody's dilapidated house that was falling apart. So that was unfortunate. But
Oops.
We turned a corner, went to another restaurant, and it didn't advertise as vegan at all. It was just like a regular, it was a pub style restaurant. And I was kind of like, okay, I wonder if they're going to have anything vegan to eat there or vegetarian at all. And sure enough, we get there, we're looking at the menu, and literally every single option had, you can get it chicken or this, but then every single option had a vegan protein. So we were like, wow, okay, we're in Kalamazoo eating vegan, and we didn't even plan to find a place here. So it was kind of exciting to see that, because I don't think 10 or 15 or even 7 or 8 years ago you'd expect or see that anywhere. Whereas now it's like a bigger thing. And this morning at the coffee break, that was more of a vegan place that we ate at. And surprisingly, again, you go there and it wasn't like there were a few people there. It was jam-packed. It was actually almost at the point where every single seat was taken. And there would have been a lineup. I'm sure we were there early. I'm sure there would have been a lineup later in the day. So it was kind of exciting to see that in 2018 there's not only a lot of choices, but a plethora of choices. And you don't even, Phil said it when we first kind of started the club, we're riding around all these small shanty towns, how are we going to find something vegan to eat here? And vegan's Phil's pretty much went towards, you can go anywhere really and eat vegan if you really want to, at any place really. I mean, you can just kind of have whatever you want. So I think that's good for our setup, because we like road trips, we like going all over the place, and it's growing. It's something that in even small towns where you wouldn't think of it, there's options there. So that's kind of where we're at.
So I'm finding that more and more, not just in the United States, but even when I'm traveling outside of the United States, I just find that there are more and more specifically vegan options, whereas I feel the same way as Phil, the founder of the Vegan Choice Motorcycle Club, that, well, if you want to, you can say, like, hold the meat, hold the cheese, and you can have this rice dish or this thing or that salad. Or so I could always find vegan stuff, but I'm finding more and more that there's like dedicated vegan meals everywhere I go, which is so cool. Let me throw it back to Chris and Mark over here. So when you're riding and people say, like, what the heck is Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club? How important is it to you to share sort of what veganism is and what it means to you? Or just to leave it at, like, dude, we're vegans and we ride, and leave it at that?
Well, I've got a lot of stickers on my bike that talk about, anti-cruelty and be vegan. So I get a lot of looks and some questions, and it's all respectful. I haven't had any issues at all, and I've been in all but 3 states.
Cool.
So it's been pretty positive for the most part. And as far as vegan eating on the road, I tend not to use the happy cows and look for vegan places specifically, because I like to go to places that need a little, maybe a little enlightening. So I'm happy to order something that's not on the menu and just, be respectful to them as well and say, can you make this without that? And I'm like, sure. So that's my little activism. I'm not a leaflet protest kind of person. I'm more like to just plant some seeds out there. Awesome.
Chris, how about you?
Well, kind of the opposite here, where I am the protest leaflet guy. So a lot of my thing, we'll get even at a gas station, or actually in the lobby here, we have people talking about, it's vegan, kind of talking about what veganism is. So I get a lot of that, a lot of talking behind, but some people will ask what it's all about. But again, usually, I'm on my way to demos or leafleting or doing some kind of activism with the jacket on. So there's not a whole lot of question about what I'm doing there and why. But yeah, we get the questions, which is great. It's just, one person at a time. That's all we can do.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I find that people are actually fascinated with it. And there are very few people anymore who think, which is good because it's never been my experience, so I got to think it doesn't maybe exist that much anymore, or maybe it never did. Very few people that I encounter say, like, vegans, you're weird, freaky, angry tree huggers, which I don't know any of those people, so I don't know. I've not found that to be the case. So let me ask you guys, since I've got 6 really burly men, can I ask you, Captain, how much you weigh and how tall you are?
No.
Okay, noted.
I was 6'3", now for some reason I'm 6'2.5", and I weigh about 232 pounds. Actually, I was going through this, I found this pretty interesting. So I found out that I'm the exact weight, height, and reach and everything as Muhammad Ali when he was my age, when he was doing Rumble in the Jungle. But
awesome.
I would last about 4 seconds in the ring, where he can go a little longer. But yeah, I'm 6'3"-ish, and I weigh about 230 pounds, which I'm trying to bring that down a bit.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Okay, so I think, Captain, in the Army, this is like a tough regimen in your life. Do you ever get either the looks or the straight out comments that veganism is a girly thing? And what's wrong with being a girly thing? I'll add that. But okay, would you ever get that sort of like, dude, come on, it's not for us?
Well, I've been in the Army Reserves now in Canada since 1997. So I can remember back that far. And back then, maybe 15 years ago, a bit more, there would have been maybe that mentality. But not just with veganism, but now with various sensitivities towards religions and things. When we are eating either in the mess hall or out in the field, even in the field, there's they really cater now towards different sensitivities of religion and vegetarian and veganism as well. So whereas you wouldn't see that before. And one interesting thing that I see a lot is that, Army food, especially out in the field. There was always that mentality of hospital food's here, Army food's here, jail food's here. We're somewhere in the middle. But you see a lot of it in the field because the meat options are kind of here's your Salisbury steak, which was probably boiled over the past few days, and it's all in a big bucket. So you see a lot of people that are possibly meat eaters, where the vegetarian or vegan option, or even the halal option sometimes, are just way better quality than what you would have had for the meat option. So you see a lot of the vegetarian options running out before, and guys getting in trouble because you're not actually vegan, are you? No, but it actually tastes better, so we're going to take so that was pretty neat. So there is a changing mentality, I think, even in the military.
Yeah.
So no one's challenging you on this isn't a masculine way to be.
No,
Not at all.
No, I hear no from other people. You never get that.
I haven't got it once.
Awesome. Chris?
For me, being a bigger guy anyways, being a junk food vegan, of course, I think, like you said, back 20 years ago, that was the stereotype, was the skinny, puny, pale, that's how vegans were, hippie, you know what I mean? But everything's changing, every year you see, more and more people becoming vegan. That stereotype is just, it's disappearing. But I think definitely, 20 years ago, that was it. I mean, we had, tofu and vegetables. We didn't know we could veganize Taco Bell. You know what I mean?
Right, totally.
So I think, but that stereotype's definitely going away. Yeah, I haven't heard it in a long time.
You guys, I'm going to throw it to you, and including our founder Phil, but I'll start with Barack. Is that your same experience about this masculinity veganism thing?
I was just thinking when he was saying that Harley isn't selling motorcycles as much anymore because the market is changing. They're trying to figure out how we can adapt to this new market, this new people, this new generation. So I think change is all around us now. And I wasn't a vegan 15 years ago and 20, so thank God I didn't live through those days. But it's a very, very different environment being a man these days.
I love that.
Yeah, we feel welcome being who we are, really.
Do you agree, Marcin?
And sometimes when I go to a restaurant and if I luck out and there's a place that simply doesn't have any options, I have no problems just walking out.
Yeah.
And then sometimes there's not going to change that out of me now. But when I go and I order something, just have the time. Like if you have a good chef, he'll give you go to town, make me whatever you want to make me, just make it vegan and.
That's so awesome. So Phil, since you are the founder, you've been at this the longest really in terms of the motorcycle club. It's probably changed today, but when you started in 2014, any pushback on being a vegan guy?
No.
Oh, cool.
Chris and I have been to a lot of motorcycle shows. We've been to ride-ins. We've been to gatherings like that. And if anything, I've had people stop me on the street and say, "Hey, where are you guys from?" And they ask me questions and they're like, give me the thumbs up and all that. Some people have actually emailed me through the website and said, "Hey, we saw you guys on such and such." I had one guy stop. We were at a show, and he came up and he said, "Rah rah." He says, he thinks we're fighting an uphill battle. He says because everybody wants to eat meat. I says, "You're right." I says we all grew up. Most of us, 99.9% of us, grew up eating meat. But that doesn't mean that it's right or it's healthy or it's necessary. It's not necessary. If you can eat vegan and you can still have the same person as you were before, why would you do something that causes the cruelty?
And the environmental damage and the health damage. And yeah, we could go on there for a very long time. I completely agree with you. And I think change is hard. And you do what you know. We all grew up on meat, right? Did any of you come from a vegetarian upbringing?
No.
So we all grew up on meat. So you do what you know. And I understand how people just do what they know. And then you get a taste for things. And I'll sort of go to the step and say meat and dairy are a little addictive, right? I know people feel that bacon, they can't give it up or whatever. I'll just mention that it's carcinogenic. Bacon's a carcinogenic. But all right, so, you have trouble getting rid of some of these tasty options. It's normal. It's what you grew up on. But when you start to put together, it's not really necessary. It causes so much environmental damage, so much animal damage, so much cardiac damage. I don't know. It's hard to find the benefit there. But it's great that you guys are feeling that people are generally open to it.
That's, I was a little older too when I switched, so I didn't do it to be cool or trendy. So I think people knew me for who I was before. I mean, I might be the oldest person here today. So so that's another reason why I haven't gotten any pushback from anybody really.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, there's a movie coming out. You guys have heard me talk about it. I interviewed some of the people from the movie. It's called The Game Changers, and it's all about male athletes and how they can best compete. And they're not in it for the animals or the environment. They're in it as professional athletes, and they need to be in the best shape they can be. And being a vegan, they found after many studies, is the best shape for an athlete because you can compete better. When you break down your muscles, you need to repair. Your body needs to repair as fast as it can. Very hard to repair on meat because it just stays in your system forever. Much easier to repair on vegetables and vegan options, and then you can get back to working out faster. And they're finding with studies that you don't need as much protein as you thought. So I don't know if you guys ever get the protein question.
All the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is really the question you're getting. All right, so what do you tell people when they say, like, well, how do you get your protein? Phil?
They always, how do you get your, this? It's almost, I'm sorry to say, but it's almost a joke at this point because we don't think you need as much protein as people set out, and B, we've proved it. I mean, if meat was necessary for humans, then all the vegetarians and all the vegans would be dead by now. But we're obviously not. So obviously it's not necessary,
Right, it's a choice, exactly.
It's a choice, yeah. It comes down to a choice.
Yeah.
I don't think people really understand, too, that the biggest thing I think that comes into it is DNA. People don't talk about DNA at all, but they say, oh, if you don't eat your meat, you're not going to be big and strong. Well, the thing is, no. You can eat as many cows and sheep and pigs and whatever as you want, and if your DNA says that you're going to be that type of person, that's there are limitations. If there were no limitations, then all the biggest bodybuilders, Arnold Schwarzenegger had 4-inch arms. He could have had 26. Why didn't he have 26? Because he's limited by DNA. We are all limited. We could be 10 feet tall. Why aren't we 10 feet tall? Because of DNA, so it's not...
what you eat.
Yes, to a point.
I love that. And I'll just add to that, not only would all the vegans be dead, but you wouldn't have athletes winning gold medals and being weightlifting champions, etc., if they were dead for not eating meat, obviously. So I'll just hit on the guy thing one more time. So one of the big notes in the movie The Game Changers is that meat slows up the flow of blood in your body and constricts the arteries. So, everybody, now that you're vegan, how's your sex life? Go ahead!
I'm a young buck here.
So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I mean, it's true that you can sort of keep your blood flowing better on no meat. And so that was one of the findings in the movie, that a lot of erectile dysfunction is reversed. Here's the great thing about your body. Just like take a minute to say, like, wow, the human body is so gosh darn amazing. You can actually reverse cardiac disease. You can reverse erectile dysfunction. You can reverse even cancer by changing your foods. So what do we have going on here?
Showing some muscle.
Yeah. I think for me, cancer is, I lost my mom to cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I've always been looking at what factors can I possibly change that are going to minimize my risks.
Yes.
And looking at carcinogens and knowing what the media puts out as far as the things you're eating. And one day you'll see the report on bacon's carcinogenic, and the next day they're apologizing. Oh, but everything in moderation. It's like, and you never hear about it again. So it's just you take the information, disseminate, figure out what's useful, what's not. And
yeah. It's not a panacea being vegan. I mean, vegans, can get all these diseases too, but
sure. We
minimize it. So I'm always careful not to, when I talk about it, not to upsell or oversell the health benefits too much. It's, for me, I just come from, what's fair and what's right. I mean, I I can't even say I'm an animal lover. I mean, I love my animals, but I respect the animals and their rights. And that's what it's about for me. It's just what's fair and right and just.
I always think that's very compelling when someone who's not a cuddly, must hug everything person, as I am, when they get behind animal rights and they say like, well, it's obviously wrong just because creating suffering for anyone, man, female, beast, anything, is wrong. And if you don't have to, why would you? I think that argument is always most compelling when it comes from someone who's not an out-and-out animal lover like I am. Okay, I think we are coming to the point of the interview, unless anybody wants to throw anything else out. Any views, any thoughts?
I was going to add one more thing to the protein conversation, actually. I was going to say I don't get as much as the how do you get your protein question, but I get more of the, well, you can't get as much protein as if you were to eat meat question now.
Okay.
So now we're talking about different foods and how to...
Quantities.
And I love that. I love that because I feel like there is progress.
Yes.
We moved away from the question of how do you get your protein now.
Yeah.
So it's great.
I love this concept too. I talked about it a little bit before. Again, whether you're to the left or to the right, they so don't have your best interests in mind. So I would just, they being government, I would just suggest to everyone, inform yourselves, get as much information as you can, weigh the articles that you read, and look who funded that study on carcinogens in bacon. Look who's trying to get you to have milk or to have meat or to have things that maybe aren't good for you, and you make the decision for yourself. And however you land is great. I mean, just educate yourself and you'll come out wherever you want to come out for you, and the journey is all about you, and whatever you decide is good for you is great. So no one's here to tell you it's not. I'm only here to say I don't think government really has your best interest at heart. So if you can educate yourself on your food choices, it's probably better for all involved, animals, environment, and you, which is so awesome. Okay, so here we are at the point of the interview. We're going to get some really quick, fast answers. I'll go around. They're kind of one-word answers. Everybody give me what you got. I'll start over here with Chris. What is your favorite snack? Vegan snack.
I would say the Primal beef jerky stick. So, yeah.
I didn't even know they made those.
Yep, yeah. Lots of different flavors, good varieties. I love them all. I mean, clearly.
A vegan? There's a vegan beef jerky?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of different companies that came out with them now, but that's just Primal's one of my favorites.
All right, okay, little shout out there for Primal. What about you?
Carrots, raisins, and pretzels.
Are those even snacks? Okay, I guess they are snacks. I was thinking junk food snack, but all right, you're so good. Wow, carrots are your favorite junk food snack? Well, good for you. That's impressive. What about you, Captain Chris?
One thing I find myself ordering wherever I go, if it is on the menu, as an appetizer or even just on its own, is edamame. I love that stuff. It's like I don't feel heavy after I'm eating it. It's very refreshing. And
you're getting your protein if you care about that. And then what I love about it is its shape. You just get to nibble on it, and it's finger food, which is always so fun. What about you, Phil?
I never even heard about that. You got to tell me about that.
See what you learn here on the Awesome Vegans podcast. Learning about each other.
How do you spell it? Edamame?
I'll tell you later.
Wait, you've never had edamame?
No.
Oh boy.
We're going out for edamame, people. That's what's happening after this. Okay.
It's always enlightening. I like to, between meals, if I'm kind of snackish, I throw some fruits and stuff in a blender.
Good. Wow. Awesome and healthy. Sir, Martin?
I'm always on the hunt for awesome vegan mac and cheese.
Oh, so good. Yeah, I've recently been overindulging on that, and it's very seriously good. What about you, Barack?
Skinny Pop. And I'll also call it crack while I'm there. I'll just start open the bag.
I didn't know. So this is amazing to me. Again, one can think vegan, it's this extreme thing that'll be really hard. Then I'm finding wait a minute, Twizzlers, vegan. Doritos, vegan. Skinny Pop, vegan. Oreos are vegan?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. I didn't even know that. Okay, so lots of options for you. And at some point later this year, I'm going to throw out my own recipes and how you can sign up, because I love to cook at home, and so many easy vegan options. And what I found for myself, and you guys chime in if this resonates with you, I thought when I went vegan that I would have fewer food choices. But then what I realized is I had so many more, because in eating meat and cheese, I had really limited what I was going to eat. And I kept going back to them because I think they're kind of addictive. And so I had really narrowed my food world. And then once I opened it up, because I was like, well, I guess I got to work in some vegetables, I was like, oh my gosh, sweet potatoes and mushrooms and asparagus and things I hadn't touched in a long time. And suddenly I realized as a vegan, I have so many more choices than I ever did as an addicted meat eater. So that'll just be my thing. Okay, here is kind of a pensive question. I'll start with Barack and we just work our way around. What do you know now that you wish you knew 10 years ago?
That the piece of flesh I'm looking at, it is a piece of flesh I'm looking at, I should say. That ground beef or that chicken used to be alive and didn't want to die.
And they suffer.
Yeah.
They suffer. I think, just to interject my own self here, I think that's the hardest thing for me whenever I get a question about being vegan, is that sometimes people aren't making the connection to animals suffering. And sometimes they think, well, animals don't suffer. I don't know where they'd ever get that idea. But I think once people realize animals suffer, then they can kind of put it together for themselves. But
there's that, plus it doesn't make sense to me how you have a dog, you have a cat, and then you just pick animals.
Yeah.
And then you look at China where they're eating dogs and say, oh, terrible country. Well, who said dogs are superior to pigs?
They're not, actually, in terms of intelligence and community and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's some very horrifying. I tend not to go into it too much on the podcast because it's just so gut-wrenching for me and also I think for people listening. But there's a great video by the Humane League. I'll give a little shout out because I love them. Humane League, they have a Go Veg campaign. It's called Eating Veg, I think, eatingveg.com. And they have a 20-minute video about doctors and why people are doing it and the food choices they can make and how many great recipes, but also what happens in the farms. And some undercover people were saying that pigs are so smart that the pigs had figured out how to open the locks of their pens where they cannot move. They'd figured out how to open the locks with their tongues and then go to their babies, because they're separated from their babies, open the locks of the cages of their babies to get their babies out. And then once they did that, they opened the locks for the other pigs so they could get their babies. These pigs were immediately beaten to death because they can't have revolution in the factory. So, but it just tells you like the amount of intelligence and community and family. So, yeah,
Makes my hair stand.
Me too. I'm the same. I'm the same. I'll share that video with you. Okay, Marcin.
I wish I knew that it was a lot easier to cook vegan than really worrying about where you're gonna get your meat, and just that it is a lot easier. And it's just, I wish I didn't take 10 years ago. It's like such an adverse effect. Oh, vegan. I never thought that was even a possibility. I grew up on meat and potatoes, a classic Polish diet, and I always looked at veganism as, no, not me, never gonna happen. Mm-hmm. I wish I kind of woke up a lot earlier.
Because it's easier than you thought, right? Totally.
It's a progression. It's nothing that you're gonna do overnight. You miss things. You think you're gonna miss cheese, and you realize I can make my own cheese. And it's still progression. It's not something you're used to aging yet. You want it right now. You want it instant. And
yes.
It's surprisingly easier than I thought.
So I have a website coming out, elizabethalfano.com, and I'm going to have all the tips on just how easy, with a couple of the right kitchen tools, like a inexpensive food processor, and those do exist, inexpensive food processors. You can make your own stuff, and it's super healthy for you, and you're going to drop so much weight. All right, that's awesome. Phil, what do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
Internet. I mean, we never had internet before, and I think there probably was a lot of good ideas around the world. I mean, think of it. As long as we've recorded history in the world, we've never had this internet, which is a tool that we can now share information around the globe instantly like that. And if somebody hundreds of years ago had some great idea, how could they get it out to everybody else,
I see. So you're saying because we have internet, it's just made everything so much more accessible.
I think so. Yeah.
Of course, yeah, sure. Sir, Captain Chris?
10 years ago, I wouldn't have known about the choices available. So, I mean, if I can give a shout out, actually, my better half, Karen, she just celebrated her 1 year anniversary at Good Grains, where it's a quick serve, plant-based quick serve cafe in the west end of Toronto. So you can Google or Facebook Good Grains Canada.
Cool.
And it's great because now she's introduced things to me like plantain and sweet potato and different ways to have asparagus. And 10 years I would not have been excited about Brussels sprouts, and now I am. All the different ways you can have them, it's just great. So just the variety available, and like you were saying, when you have meat with a meal, there's only you're limiting how you have it and what you have it with, whereas with vegetarian and vegan options, you can kind of just come up with and invent things. So really interesting.
So I'll just do a shout out. I have a fantastic 5-minute recipe, including Brussels sprouts. So hit me up at my email, Elizabeth, which is spelled funny. It's a Y and an S, Elizabeth@awesomevegans.com. And of course, if you haven't done it yet, you should be subscribing to this iTunes, and of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel, because more stuff like that is going to be coming from me about super easy tips to make your life easy and healthy. Awesome for the shout out. Thanks for that. Chris, so Mark, what do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
Well, everybody's journey is different. Mine was really quick, as I said, but one thing I learned was most people's journey is sort of backwards from what I would recommend. They start with the red meat, and they progress through, poultry and then fish, and the last things they give up are eggs and dairy. And if I were going to counsel someone how to do it, soul for soul, pound for pound, you would start exactly the opposite, because the dairy and the egg industries and the fish are the cruelest and affect the most lives the most seriously. And I would, give up red meat last. So that's the way, if you really want to go about it the ideal way, that's how I would say. And, but everybody has a different line. There's no perfect vegan. As Phil said before, a minute ago I mentioned that Oreos were vegan. I know some people would, disagree with that because of the, sugars and palm oil and things like that. But, so just start your journey.
Yes,
Wherever
right.
you start it and finish it.
I love this. Don't overthink it. Hit me up. I'll give you a couple super fast recipes and do what you can. And then if you fall off, you fall off. I mean, Meatless Mondays, start there. Hit all of us up, Vegans Choice Motorcycle Club. Reach out to Phil, reach out to me, and just start. Don't overthink it. Chris?
Yeah, I think 10 years ago, probably all the different ways that we can combine our passions, our loves, our hobbies, and our beliefs. And I think, for us, it's the Vegans Choice Motorcycle Club.
Yeah.
It's all come together, and
Yeah.
So I think just knowing more than now than what we knew then.
Yeah.
That's where we're heading.
Yeah, and I'll give a general shout out about do what you love. So much good stuff comes from that. Find just whatever your passions are, go deep into them and give as much as you can to that passion and those who share it with you. And usually good stuff will come from that. So that's pretty awesome. Okay. We're back to the one-word answer. I know this is kind of tricky because it's a big question, but so much about veganism is where are we going? More and more people are open to it. More and more people are educated about it. We're realizing there are studies about your health, the environment. Of course, if you're an activist, you're working against hopefully I'm saying this right, the ag-gag laws, or is it the gag-ag laws?
Ag-gag.
Ag-gag, which means no cameras. Correct me again if I got this wrong. No cameras in animal factories. Why would you not want to know about your own food source? We're back to government. Educate yourself as you can, because you should be allowed to have truth in food information. But if you don't care about animals, like Chris and I and Phil over here do, and if you don't care about animals like all of us, let's hope you care about people. So there are no cameras in those factories. That sucks for workers. No way around that. Not good for workers. Okay, so if you can, in one word, please give me your predictions for the future. Now that might be about veganism or not. And that might be tomorrow's the future or 10 years from now. But so much of veganism touches on the environment, food, your health, what's going on in factory farms, like the ag-gag laws we talked about. I'll start with Chris and kind of work my way around. Where are we going?
Unfortunately, mine's probably way far off in the future, but Total animal liberation.
Oh, come on, Lucky Seven. I'll send you an interview. I just interviewed Peter Singer,
Yeah.
the author of
Yeah.
Animal Liberation. All right, people, hit it. Mark?
There's more and more choices out there, cheeses and milks and meats. I think the one-word answer for me is 2 words. It's tipping point. It's at 10%
yeah.
threshold. Once you get there,
Yeah.
that's when, for any movement, for any social movement, that's when things really start to roll along.
Are we
quite
there?
good. We're at 2 or 3 right now.
Out of 10.
Mhm.
That's what you
But
think.
it's growing, and the internet and things like
Yeah.
what we're doing,
Yeah.
showing that it's normal to be normal, and
So I'm going to put a happy spin on that because how many millennials do you hang out with?
half a dozen.
Half a dozen. Okay. So I'm around millennials all the time because my fabulous team of people who help me, they're all millennials, my niece and nephews, and I'm like around them. Millennials are really taking veganism and grabbing hold of it. And I think I read recently, and of course every study's a little different, but I read recently that 14% of vegans 14% of millennials consider themselves like flexi-vegans, which I think is an interesting concept, which I totally embrace, which means be vegan as much as you can, and then when you can't, you do your best, and then you get right back on. So, nobody's perfect. But so a lot of millennials really have grabbed onto this for environmental and health and animal reasons. So I'm going to say that I'm hoping we're a little bit more than 3%. But okay, of the tipping scale. Captain Chris?
Kind of along the lines of what Mark said, just the growth of the whole movement and less of a minority. Like what we saw in every restaurant we've been in so far is that there's options available now, and a lot of people are doing that. So
Pretty
see
awesome.
some growth and expansion more.
Founder Phil?
I don't think we have much of a choice. The 2/3 of the agriculture right now is being given to animals, which we only get 30% back from the animal after they're slaughtered. So I mean, if you look at the math, it doesn't really work out. 65 acres of rainforest is what we lose every minute of every day due to factory farming. It takes 55 square feet of rainforest to make just a quarter-pound burger patty, and the energy that's used in that it takes 2,500 gallons of water to make 1 pound of meat. We don't have a choice. World population goes up, wildlife population goes down. We're decimating forests and all that. We've got to feed the people from the land and not have a middleman like that. It's not necessary, and it's cruel, and it's not working.
And if you have kids, I'm guessing you care about the future. So, yeah. Makes sense to me. Marcin, what are your predictions?
I think this ties into where you get your protein, and my answer was always, where does your protein get your protein? And if we really stick to where your protein gets your protein, eat that protein, I think we can really give it a tipping point back to
Very good.
towards our side.
Love that. So what he's saying, gorillas, they're plant-based, giraffes, plant-based, hippos, plant-based, elephants, plant-based, rhinos, plant-based, and those are all pretty big, strong animals. They're doing just fine. Barack?
My wife and I, we travel a lot. We 2-3 times a year go to different parts of the world. And my prediction is, from what I've been seeing, almost every country we visit, they have a vegan version of their national dish in some restaurant somewhere. I see veganism as being a cool thing for the new generation all around the world. And I see, if it's not just for the cruelty reasons or health reasons, for other reasons that we can't even think about right now, veganism becoming even more popular worldwide.
So awesome. I'm going to say that if you want to find any of us and it gets too confusing, you can of course go to the Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club, and you can of course reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with any of these fabulous people who are making a difference and doing what they love. That's really the best. They're out there doing what they love. And when you embrace what you love, people want to find out about it, and they start asking you, like, what the heck is Vegan's Choice Motorcycle Club? Because they started first with what they love, and then the rest just kind of follows. So I hope that is your journey for you. Do what you love. Life is short, as you all know. Do what you love. I want to thank each and every one of you. Chris, thank you for all that you do for riding with the Vegans Motorcycle Club, and let's give a shout out to your sanctuary again.
Yeah, Sacred Ground Animal Sanctuary in Bristow, Oklahoma.
Wonderful. And the website would be?
It's on Facebook page. Just
Yeah.
look up Sacred Ground Sanctuary and you'll find us.
We're going to find it. Okay, awesome. You can send donations, people, because he's doing the work. Mark, with Tree Line Cheese, I'll also give a shout out to Tree Line. You are sales rep there, right?
Yep, the head of sales there.
Head of sales. Awesome. Mark, thank you for riding with the Vegans Motorcycle Club and doing what you love and spreading the word and all that great stuff. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And I'll also say, so Mark's from Chicago, which is where we're meeting now, but Chris is from Oklahoma, so thanks for making that ride. And of course, thank you to the people from Toronto, Captain Chris and Founder Phil. Thanks, you guys, for doing the ride. Some of it was in the rain, so they're diehard, they're dedicated. And thanks for all that you do, all the work that you do. I super appreciate it. Martin back here and Barack, you guys are both from Chicago, so not a long haul, but thanks for spreading the word and being great advocates and for doing what you love. You guys, safe travels, safe ride. Bye, folks.